You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. Guys, I just got back from Baum-Walker Stadium where I watched, I believe, 14 innings of baseball, maybe 15, 14 and a half. I kind of lost track there for a while, but a lot of action, a lot of preseason baseball for Arkansas and the final preseason baseball for the Arkansas Razorbacks. The next time I go to Baum-Walker Stadium will be to watch a real baseball game that counts on the record, that we'll have in the stat books, that all of you guys will be able to watch on television or ESPN app, SEC Plus. But there's a lot to get into, man. And so we'll just hop right into it. I'm not gonna waste your time on this beautiful Saturday. I know there's a big basketball game coming later tonight, but there were 2 games worth of action. I was kind of wondering how I was going to go about this because usually, you guys have watched these before, if I'm doing the scrimmage recap, I kind of go through play by play, inning by inning, and just kind of give you the rundown. And I was like, man, it's going to end up being a lot for 2 games, especially because it ended up being, like I said, 14, 15 innings. Thankfully, it kind of worked out perfectly where all the cool stuff happened in the second game. So the second game, I'll give you a little bit more of a detailed rundown. First game finished 1-0. 1-0, I might add, not for the starting lineup. The starting lineup caught an L inside Baum-Walker Stadium today. Of course, it was actually, that one ended up being the long one. That was the 8-inning scrimmage. So there's a lot of empty innings, a lot of not cool stuff. That's part of why I'm not going to go through the rundown. There were a lot of 1, 2, 3 innings. There was a stretch there for like 3 straight innings where I don't think anything happened. A lot of pitching performances to note, and I'm going to note them here. Starting on the mound against the starting lineup was Colin Fisher, left-hander, coming off of a pretty good freshman year, a guy that everyone's been kind of excited about. He's been able to throw the last couple weekends. I thought today was definitely the best he looked, the most sharp he looked. He only goes an inning and 2/3 before he gave way to Will McIntyre, but he gives up 2 hits, one of which I believe was an infield hit. He walks 1, strikes out 2. Pretty good stuff. And he ended up giving way to Will McIntyre, who got a quick fly out and got him out of an inning, but comes out of the 2 innings basically against the starting lineup unscathed. Really good stuff from him. I mentioned Will McIntyre, who really just shut down the starting lineup. He goes 4 1/3, gives up 2 hits, does not walk a single batter, had 4 strikeouts. So it's not like he was completely mowing everyone down and just, getting a ton of swings and misses. He was just throwing a ton of strikes, working quickly, locating his fastball really well, which I thought was something that DVH talked about as a key for him, that, when he's able to keep guys off balance, get ahead in the count, he's a lot more dangerous. And of course, that's the Will McIntyre that we all know and love. He is very quietly thrown really well leading up to the season. This is why he's a circle of trust guy. You see why he's got whatever it is, 200 innings to his name. Definitely going to be an arm that Arkansas will feel like they can count on throughout, any portion of the season, but especially as they start and figure out some of these roles for some other guys. A few other, performances to note. Got to start with Zach Root here, the ECU transfer, who we expect to be in the starting rotation, expecting to be that number 2 guy. I will be honest with you with Root. I wouldn't say, this is the last time that I'm going to see him throw before the real season. All off season, I would not say that he's been like blowing anyone away, that I'm going to tell my grandkids about what Zach Root was doing in these scrimmages. I thought today was probably the best he's thrown. He struggled at times in the fall. I wouldn't have said he was struggling this spring, but mostly it was like 2 innings, give up a run, a couple strikeouts, maybe a walk or 2, like just run-of-the-mill outing. Today, I felt like was the sharpest he was and just overall the best. He ends up going 5 full innings. I mentioned what McIntyre goes 4 1/3. Root goes 5 full innings. They had these guys on a pitch count, but he only ended up throwing 65, 67 pitches. So they just kind of let him roll, and he looked like the kind of guy that will be able to work deep into ball games. And in fact, his best inning was his last inning where he struck out 2 and went 1, 2, 3. Really found a groove there. So he goes 5 innings, gives up 5 hits. I believe there was at least 1 or 2 infield hits or some tough plays mixed in there. Gives up 1 run, which I guess he ended up being the losing pitcher in this matchup. Did not walk anyone and struck out 8. He was consistently throwing strikes, getting ahead of the count, pitching backwards. There were a couple times where I can remember him maybe falling behind 2-0 and then mixing in a changeup or an off speed or a breaking ball in there. Like he does a really good job of just you never know what to expect from him. He will throw all 4 pitches for strikes early and often in the counts. And so I thought this was, again, like the best he's looked so far. And it was really encouraging to see that. Again, he's not pitching against a starting lineup, which, by the way, Gackle yesterday did not throw against the starting lineup. Zach Root today did not throw against the starting lineup. And then in game 2, which we'll get to in a second, it was Landon Beidelshees who did not throw against the starting lineup. Does that mean anything? I don't know. Maybe not. But I feel like it kind of does. And again, we will talk about game 2 and kind of the takeaways from there. But Root's performance, I would say, was probably the highlight of game 2. And I guess you could throw McIntyre in there because he just was lights out as well. 4 1/3, no runs, 4 strikeouts. Hard to top that. I thought those 2 guys really carried the scrimmage for sure. And then you get into the later innings. Cole Gibler, the freshman left-hander who you've heard me raving about all fall. He had a dominant fall. Didn't exactly go his way the first couple weeks as we repicked up here in spring. Really got roughed up, gave him a couple nukes last weekend at Baum. Good to see him get back in action. He was 1 pitch away from having an immaculate inning. Had 2 strikeouts on 6 pitches to start his outing. Then gets ahead 0-2 and then ends up getting a ground out. So he ends up going 2 innings, striking out 2, no hits, no walks, no runs. Really just looked a lot closer to that version of the guy that we saw in the fall. Looks like, and he was doing this against the starting lineup, just looked like a super confident, throwing strikes, super polished version of himself. And we've seen that in the past. So it was really good to see a return to form for him as we launch back into the season. We'll see what his role ends up being. Tate McGuire's another guy who had a really productive summer in the Cape. Felt like, okay, this is a talented guy. He's going to take that next step, be a guy that'll really have a role for Arkansas. And then it just really hasn't materialized so far in the spring, so far in these last couple scrimmages. It just wasn't one of those guys. Like I did a circle of trust rankings the other day. I didn't have him in that circle of trust as a guy that we know for sure is going to have a role. He ends up throwing 2 innings, had just 1 strikeout, but just got a lot of weak contact, early pop-ups, didn't have to do too much. In fact, after he threw his 2 innings, I saw him go down to the bullpen and throw some more. They still had some more in his pitch count that they were trying to get out there, but he was too effective out there on the mound. And again, they played 8 innings. It was cold. They're trying to move through this pretty quickly. Good stuff from Tate McGuire, encouraged by what we saw from him. The last guy that threw was Carson Wiggins, the freshman phenom, the younger brother of Jackson Wiggins, of course, the guy that throws 100. Did not have access to the radar gun today, but he looked like he was throwing pretty hard. I don't know if he threw anything other than a fastball. Threw just 1 inning, got a few quick pop-ups, then he had a ground out and 2 pop-ups. So no strikeouts, no runs, no walks. And he also went down to the bullpen and finished out his outing there where I think they had some pitch count stuff they wanted him to do. So I talked a lot about the pitchers, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the hitting stats here. This is what the starting lineup looked like. Charles Davalon had a couple hits. He actually led off this game with a hit and then tried to stretch it into a double and got thrown out trying to do that. You had Rocco Pepe with a base hit. Nolan Souza with a huge double to lead off an inning against Will McIntyre, was caught stealing third base. I've strongly disagreed with the call in the field by the player umpire, but we'll leave that debate for another day. So you see not much going on with the starting lineup. Not what you want to see. You will see a lot better in this next game. That's where all the cool stuff happened, like I mentioned. And then here you had the bottom, the gray squad today. Cam Kojal once again leads off with a base hit, I believe it was, against Zach Root. Continues to hit. He also hit in game 2 today. I feel like Cam Kojal's really made a nice push there. Not going to start at second base, but we'll see. I think he's a very real candidate there at DH. Michael Anderson goes 1 for 3 with a single, and his single was a blooper that just kind of landed in the right spot. Reese Robinette swung the bat pretty well. Tyler Holland continues to just hit, ropes a double down the left field line against Zach Root, just snuck it right inside the fair line there down the third base line. Good stuff from Tyler Holland, just continues to show out, man. So there's the stats there again. Not a ton of offense for this scrimmage. But moving on to game 2 again, this is kind of where all the cool stuff happened. And I feel like the most notable takeaways from the scrimmage came. So right off the bat, I mentioned you had Gackle throwing against the non-starters. You had Zach Root throwing against the non-starters. We knew that Gage Wood and Landon Beidelshees were going to be the 2 starters for this game. And I thought it was going to be kind of interesting to see who they threw against the non-starters. It was Landon Beidelshees. And so, again, I don't think they've really truly made a definitive decision on this move yet. But it seems like it's trending toward She's kind of being that guy on the in the Sunday role, the game 3 role, when Arkansas does have to move their rotation down. I think Gage Wood's still very much in that mix. I just kind of think that's the direction they're going. I think both guys are very capable. But again, I thought today was like another mini little indicator that that's kind of the direction they're going. So again, that was kind of the story going into the scrimmage was, okay, you got the two guys who are kind of vying for that third spot. Can they kind of make it definitive? Can we get some of that separation? And I would say we did get some separation today. So Landon Beidelshees ends up going 5 innings, only gives up 1 run on a home run by Kahio Aloy, dead center, just absolutely mashed it. That was the only run Landon Beidelshees only gave up a couple of hits, I believe, maybe 2, 3. We'll go through the kind of play-by-play here, but just looked really good, threw a ton of strikes, got through 5 innings of work. I can't remember how many strikeouts he ended up with, maybe 7, 8. Just really good stuff. Hard to ask for much more out of him, out of a guy you're hoping to be your Sunday guy. And Gage Wood, it just frankly didn't go his way. He was facing the starting lineup. He was facing a much better order than Beidelshees, no doubt about that. And then you also had a little bit of a pissed off starting lineup because they had just gotten shut down minutes before. And so I think they were, a few guys that were kind of due to get going a little bit. And they got going against Gage Wood. I believe they ended up scoring 7 earned runs against him, 8 runs total in 3+ innings. Let's take a quick little dive through. If I can find it, I got to sift through all this real quick. Okay, so let's take a dive through just a play-by-play of what happened in this game, and we'll talk about the stats earlier. Actually, that's a lie. Let's look at the stats real quick. These are the stats for game 2 from the home squad. So I just showed you the stats from game 1, looking a little bit rough here. Here you have Iredale's the only guy without a hit, and he even drew a couple walks. And his E4 that he had there, you see in his line, hit really well right at Cam Kojal. Kojal actually had no chance to make the play. It was just one of those wicked hops. You could probably make an argument, but I thought it was hit right at him. So I don't know how you don't go air there, but that was just kind of my scoring. Everyone reached base. A lot of guys with multiple hits. Vahiva Aloy, triple shy of the cycle. Kendall Diggs goes yard. Like, it was just a complete, well-rounded 1 through 9 showing for the starting offense here in game 2. And this is against Gage Wood, who has been arguably the best pitcher on the team all offseason. So definitely nothing to scoff at, and definitely really encouraging, especially after how game 1 today went. And here were the stats for the Gray squad. You see Kojal there had the home run. I believe that's his first home run as a Razorback. Was cool to see that. Kahio Aloy had the big home run as well. Again, they were facing Landon Beidelshees, so not a ton of action there necessarily. Michael Anderson had an opposite field double late. That was good to see. Those are your stats for the Gray team. Now let's talk about just the play-by-play here. So it starts off Gage Wood, top 1, pitching against the starting lineup. Charles Davalon starts it off with just a great piece of 2-strike hitting. Charles Davalon, left-handed swinger, just pokes one right down the third baseline, just in a perfect spot. He ends up getting a double. He did not get thrown out trying to stretch this one into a double. It was more of a legitimate double. Gage Wood comes back and strikes out Vahiva Aloy with a high heater. And I have it on very good authority from Daniel Shee that the high heater he struck out Vahiva Aloy with was a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, which I don't think I've seen Gage Wood throw 97 in a game. I saw him touch 96 this fall. And usually throughout his career in his first 2 years, he's been mostly in that 92 to 94 range with maybe a 95 mixed in there. So for him to be in the cold weather, and it was cold out there today, pretty windy, throwing 97, that tells you that his stuff has kind of gone up a little bit. So again, you have the leadoff double, strikes out Vahiva Aloy. Logan Maxwell grounds out up the middle to shortstop, which allows Davalon to go to third base. Logan Maxwell, by the way, I want to go on a quick little rant. It hasn't gone particularly well for him so far this spring. He did have a huge hit later in this scrimmage, which we will get to. He's also a little bit banged up. When he got on base, they pinch ran for him both times. When he got a base hit and when he walked, they pinch ran for him. So I think that tells you right away he might not be 100%, which kind of makes a little bit of sense with why he's been struggling a little bit. But I'll tell you, whether he's 100% or not, he's going to have to deal with Cam Kojal for that DH spot. That's where Maxwell has been fitting in the starting lineup in that DH spot. I think that's probably where he's going to end up because it looks like Kendall Diggs is kind of Kendall Diggs in right, Rocco Pepe in first base. I think we've kind of settled there. And then Justin Thomas, of course, in left field. I think Maxwell and Kojal are potentially two left-handed bats. I think both those guys are going to get looks at DH, and just based on the way it's been going here the last few weeks, it would seem like Kojal's going to be a hard guy to keep out of the lineup. I want to pull up that red lineup real quick because I just want to point something out. Maxwell's been hitting third a lot. Souza and Helfrich down there at 7-8. I love you, DVH. I love you, Dave. What are we doing? You got Lou Gehrig hitting 7th. You got Buster Posey hitting 8th. And you've got Logan Maxwell, who's been, he's a proven hitter. He's a career 300 guy. I get all that. But for the season, I feel like you got to get one of those power bats up there in the middle of the order. A guy like Souza, a guy like Helfrich, hell, even a guy like Diggs. Those are guys that are going to drive in potentially 50, 60, 70 runs. Those are the kind of guys you want hitting third. I've been a little confused by that, and I would assume that's going to change for the real season, but they've been pretty consistent at doing it. Sorry for the quick rant there. Maxwell getting back to the action, and Maxwell grounds out to shortstop, allows Davalon, who doubled to start the inning, to move up to third base, and then a wild pitch scores Davalon, which I believe also happened in the same sequence as Brent Iredale drawing one of his walks. Brent Iredale also stole a base later in this inning. Wood ends up getting Kendall Diggs to strike out. I believe that was also on some high heat. So then we go to the bottom of the first. It's now 1-0 red here for those keeping track at home. Bottom of the first, Landon Beidelshees gets Kojal to ground out sharply, but right into a shift, 6-3. Zane Becker reaches on an error by Brent Iredale, kind of hit to his right. Could have had a chance to make the play there on the backhand. Ends up going down as an E5. Michael Anderson strikes out, as he is known to do sometimes. Reese Robinette flies out to left field. Nothing doing in the first inning there for Gray. We go back to the top of the second against the starting lineup, and Rocco Pepe just jumps all over one. Home run, left field. I don't have metrics for all these home runs. It was hit pretty well. It was pretty much a no doubter. I think we all kind of knew it was gone. I don't have an estimation for you. Maybe 375, 380. Hit well. Rocco Pepe's been squaring up a lot of balls here lately. He's actually shown off just as much power as literally anyone on the team so far in these scrimmages. So everybody that wants a power hitting first baseman, I think Arkansas actually has it in Rocco Pepe. Nolan Souza reaches after that on, and what I wrote down as an E1. I thought that Wood probably could have made the play. He kind of had to. He reached down once and then came back up empty-handed, then had to go back down again and then tried to make the throw to first. Souza's got too much speed. He beats it out. I could hear an argument for single. I just thought that if he picked it up on the first try, he probably gets him out. So I went with E1. Didn't end up really mattering because Ryder Helfer grounds into a fielder's choice to third base, and then Justin Thomas grounded into a fielder's choice to third base as well. Another controversial call in the field as Justin Thomas was called out trying to steal. Really good throw from Zane Becker behind the plate. I thought he beat it. Like, I don't know. I thought he was safe, but whoever it was, there was a player umpire out there, called him out. We live with the decision. Going down to the bottom of the second with Beidelshees, you have a quick pop-up from Kahio Aloy, who pops out to his brother, I guess. Frazier strikes out swinging. Carson Bowles strikes out looking. That's all she wrote for the second inning from Beidelshees. We go back to the top of the third with Wood. Charles Davalon flies out to the left. Really good swing. I actually really like this one. This is one that, like, on a different day, actually might have gotten out of the yard. It was an opposite field fly ball, but it was hit pretty well. And I kind of was like, hey, maybe it's got a chance. Ends up getting caught on the track. Maybe on a different day, it sneaks out of there. After that, Vahiva Aloy just rips a double to left field. He had been kind of frustrated at the plate a little bit. Had been getting jammed a little bit. Hadn't been striking out a ton, but just hadn't been crushing the ball necessarily. So I think it felt good for him to really get a hold of one, square one up, barrels it up down the line in left field. That's a double. And then right after that, Logan Maxwell with his first hit of the weekend, I believe, or first hit of the day, lines a base hit right up the middle. That makes it 3-0 red. And then, of course, Maxwell has the base hit. Justin Thomas goes and runs for him, which is notable because the next play was the Brent Iredale E4 that I referenced earlier, hit right at Kojal, and it just kind of took a weird wicked hop away from him. Thomas was running with the pitch from first base, which is why Kojal was played right up the middle and was able to have a chance to make the play. Thomas just keeps on running, ends up scoring from first on a one base error. It just kind of was on his way to second base, just went ahead, and when it kicked away pretty far, and he just decided to test it, went on home and scored. I thought it was a really cool to see that out of Thomas, who I just think is going to bring a little bit of a spark when he's on the base paths. And the next play, Kendall Diggs, home run to right field. I don't have metrics. This was not a no doubter for sure. You knew he hit it well. It was kind of a line drive. You knew he hit it well. It was just a matter of if it was going to be off the wall or over the wall. Ends up going over the wall. That makes it a 6-0 game for Red. Right after that, Rocco Pepe flies out to shallow right field, and then Nolan Souza strikes out swinging against Wood. We go to the bottom of the third. Beidelshees gets right back to work, strikes out Tyler Holland, issues a quick walk to Elliot Peterson, and then Charles Davalon just decided, hey, this inning's over. There's one out. I don't care. This inning's over. Brenton Clark lines a little soft flare into shallow center field. Davalon comes screaming in, dives, makes a nice play. I didn't think he even had a chance. I thought it was for sure going to bounce in front of him. He ends up making the diving stop, makes the play for the out number 2. Big time stuff. Cam Kojal follows with a base hit up the middle to Charles Davalon, who throws out Elliot Peterson at third base. Just a flawless throw. Tried to run right in his face, and it was actually hit kind of to the right of the second base bag. So to Charles Davalon's left from center field, makes a strong throw to third base. I mean, just a perfect throw, perfect tag. Peterson's not a fast base runner by any means, but he's not slow. He's just kind of, I'd say, an average running catcher DH. He thought he could steal an extra 90. He was wrong. So you get that inning ends there with just the one hit. You go to the top of the fourth here. Ryder Helfrich leads off the fourth against Wood. They tried to get another inning out of Gage Wood. Ryder Helfrich leads off with a loud base hit to left field. And then Justin Thomas just absolutely barrels up a breaking ball and puts it in the gap in left center field. Neither fielder really had a chance to get this one. It bounces up against the wall. Helfrich, who runs pretty well for a catcher, scores all the way from first. That makes it a 7-0 game for Red. Helfrich ends up, Thomas, by the way, steals third base without a throw after this when Ross Felder comes into pitch. And Ross Felder, the Springdale native, had been pitching really well. So it was kind of one of those things where we were like, hey, if he has a big outing today, you might be seeing that guy pitch on the weekends. Did not exactly work out. He came back down to earth a little bit, and he was put into a tough situation against the starting lineup when they were really starting to see things well. So Felder walks Davalon, gives up an RBI knock to Vahiva Lloyd, which makes it 8-0. And I believe closed the book on Gage Wood there. Logan Maxwell worked a walk. Felder did get Brent Iredale to strike out, which is, notable. And then Kendall Diggs I think it was bases loaded at this point. You've got one out and you're like, all right, can he maybe do something here? And Kendall Diggs just drops a base hit into shallow right center field. Good piece of 2-strike hitting. Didn't crush the ball, but just is off the bat. You can kind of tell it's a gut punch, and that makes it 10-0 Red. Kind of clears the bases up a little bit and puts it on first and third. Actually, that ended Ross Felder's day. He only gets the one out. Tag Andrews came in to pitch after that, and Tag Andrews threw the ball pretty well. You guys that have been listening know that I like Tag Andrews. I think he's got a chance to really, really be something and really help this team, whether it's midweeks or even some shots on the weekend. He comes in and gets Rocco Pepe to fly out to center field right away. Hit pretty well, but just one pitch, one out. One that both teams would really sign up for, especially given the situation that Tag Andrews comes into. Then Nolan Souza reaches with an infield hit that was basically a swinging bunt up the third base line, and Souza, the way he runs, really had no chance. And then Andrews strikes out Ryder Helfrich swinging. So good job by Andrews really settling things down and limiting the damage a good bit. Then you go back to Beidelshees, who comes back out for the fourth inning, strikes out Becker, and then gets two pretty weak ground balls from Anderson and Robinette. 1-2-3 inning. That's all she wrote. Andrews comes back out for the top of the fifth, gets Justin Thomas a strikeout looking, gets a ground ball from Charles Davalon. That was hit pretty well, but right at the second baseman. And then Vahiva Aloy decided to continue to be very good at baseball, goes opposite field and just goes with the pitch and hits it off the scoreboard. One of those swings that really just kind of makes you go, wow. This, Vahiva Aloy's a guy where if you catch him on the wrong day, he's going to have some games this year where he's going to go 0 for 4 with 2 or 3 strikeouts. And we're going to say, man, Vahiva Aloy, he really needs to clean up his approach and blah, 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 blah. And then you have a day like today where he goes 3 for 4 with a home run and a double, 412 feet off the scoreboard, just effortless. And it's like, you know what? Just live with it. Just let him do whatever he's going to do. He's going to have his ups, he's going to have his downs, but he has so many awesome moments, man. It's hard to complain about him. And then Andrews finishes up, actually didn't finish up his outing, but finishes up the inning by getting Logan Maxwell to ground out 3 unassisted there. Bottom 5, Vital Sheets comes back out, and I was kind of stunned at this point. I thought once he got through 4 and it was going well, I was like, all right, we'll be good there. Ends up giving up a home run to Kahio Aloy, just dead central. Kahio Aloy, same one where he's really been struggling here lately to the point where he's kind of almost been eliminated from that DH battle, but not quite. He'll get some starts there, but had really been struggling at the plate lately. And then, of course, just wants to remind us that he still has that power. So he goes, hits one 420 feet off of maybe Arkansas's best arm. Just really impressive stuff there, and is kind of a reminder of why they're going to continue to give him some opportunities. And then Vital Sheets finished up his outing really well. Strikes out Frazier, strikes out Bowles, strikes out Holland. Great day at the office, man. Really hard to ask for much more out of your Sunday guy. Andrews comes back in the top of the 6th, walks Brent Iredale, and then gets Kendall Diggs to line 1 right at Michael Anderson there at first base. Was an easy catch it, step on first, double play ball. And that would conclude Tag Andrews' outing, which I thought, again, was a really productive outing, especially for a freshman against the starting lineup. Just really impressive stuff, man. He continues to show that he's making strides. He's getting better each week. I think you're going to see him pitch for the Razorbacks this year, like no doubt about it. So I look forward to seeing what he can do with it. Luke Williams, the freshman lefty from Owasso, was the final pitcher of the day. He gave up an opposite field double to Rocco Pepe, and then struck out Nolan Souza looking. And then they had him come back and throw against the other lineup, the lineup that had just defended right behind him for the bottom of the 6th and final inning. He walks Elliot Peterson, gets a fly out from Brenton Clark, who has not really had a great spring, if I'm being honest with you. And then Cam Kojal finishes it up, gets us our last runs of the day with what I actually read. Daniel, she said it was a 349-foot home run, and that checks out. It was like a line drive that just got out there, but another really good swing from Kojal. Dude continues to just kind of force the issue here, which is what this coaching staff had been waiting for him to do. And that's a left-on-left home run, by the way. So, I mean, nothing to scoff at. Pretty impressive stuff there. You get a ground out from Becker. You get an opposite field double from Michael Anderson. Really good swing from him. And then Reese Robinette grounds out to shortstop, and that concludes the scrimmage. I believe we got a final score there of 12-3 in favor of the Red Squad. So, what did we learn today? Well, we learned that Cam Kojal ain't going anywhere. Cam Kojal did not hear no bell. Cam Kojal is very much going to be a factor for this team. I think you're going to see him get minimum 1 start next weekend and potentially even 2. We'll see if they decide to maybe move him to first base or if he's just going to be a DH option for now. But I think he's absolutely kind of earned the right to be a factor in this starting lineup, which just simply wasn't the case going into the spring. Like, he really had some ground to make up, but I would say he's effectively done that. Looks a lot more like the guy Arkansas thought they were getting out of Vanderbilt. Very encouraging stuff from him for sure. The rest of the starting, as far as the starting lineup goes, like, obviously it wasn't a banner performance for them in game 1. They were shut out. But I mean, if I'm looking at it, there's really not much to complain about. Justin Thomas had a big double today. He seems pretty set there in left field. He seems like he's done a pretty good job. Definitely defensively, they like what he brings and the athleticism he brings. Davalon was really good today. He just continues to be the man, and he was awesome defensively, awesome on the base paths, aside from getting thrown out at second, trying to stretch it into a double, but just hits everything at the plate, man. Really a tough at-bat, and he's got a lot of personality. Like, he's just talking while he's up there at the plate, and I can't hear what he's saying. I don't know what he's saying, but he just kind of has that. He's just fun to watch. He's just fun to watch play baseball. I think you guys are going to like him a lot. Rocco Pepe continues to mash. We know he can hit. He seems pretty dead set there at first base. Like, I haven't seen a ton hit at him to where I can really tell if he's going to be able to make all these crazy plays at first base, but definitely more of an offensive minded more than anything. He's got to be in the lineup, and I think first base is kind of where they've settled. Him and Kendall Diggs, all 3 games this weekend. Kendall in right, Rocco Pepe at first. I think that's not a coincidence. I think that's probably the direction they're going to go. Kendall continues to be really good out there in right field. Your shortstop, second base, third base are all set. Ryder Helfrich's good behind the plate. Like, I think this is the most clarity we've had on the starting lineup as we enter the final season. The only real question mark there is that DH spot. And I think if Logan Maxwell is fully healthy, I feel a lot better about it. But I feel also a lot better about it because I know Cam Kojal's right there, and he's actually playing some good baseball. Michael Anderson continues to be like hit or miss, just game to game, swing to swing even. I think you'll see him get some opportunities there at DH, maybe at first base as well. Big Country's another guy, Reese Robinette, that I think is going to get some spot starts here and there. He might not be pushing for the everyday role that it seemed like he might in the fall, but he's going to be around. He's certainly going to be a weapon, if nothing else, a pinch hit option for these guys. And definitely if something were to happen to Iredale, I feel really good about Big Country as a defender at third base. And they seem to like him as a defender at first base. And so I don't think you've heard the last of Big Country, even though he may be a little bit behind the 8 ball here. But again, in terms of the lineup, I feel pretty good 1 through 9. I feel like there's more clarity than we've had than ever. I also feel like, and I know this is going to maybe ruffle some feathers, I think we kind of got some clarity on the starting rotation. I think we kind of know you got Gackle at 1, you got Root at 2. He looked really good. I see no reason why Beidelshees would not be the Sunday starter. I think Gage Wood's very good. In fact, this offseason, I've said it multiple times. You guys have heard me. I think Gage has been pitching, besides today, which was far and away the outlier. Like, this is not an indication of how he's been pitching. Prior to today, I would have told you Gage Wood might be pitching the best out of everybody. So I think he's absolutely going to have a very big role on the team. I think his personality, his stuff, just the way he goes about his business, me personally, I think that makes a lot of sense to have at the end of the game. And this is also coming from someone, you guys have heard me say that kind of same thing about Landon Beidelshees, where I'm like, man, you see him throwing you when he really lets that fastball go, lefty, 96, big time stuff. I could see him in the back end of the bullpen. And I mean, he's got the walk-up song and all that. It kind of makes sense. I think they could still go that route if they decide to. I mean, this is not however they go week 1 or week 2 is not how they have to go the rest of the season. But just to me, the way it comes out to me is like, you brought Zach Root in to be a weekend starter. Let him be a weekend starter. You brought in Landon Beidelshees to be a weekend starter. Let him be a weekend starter. I feel like both of those guys and Gackle have earned the right to do that. And that's not to say that Gage Wood hasn't. If they went with Gage Wood, I wouldn't bat an eye at all. Y'all would not hear me complain on this podcast one bit. I would say he's definitely earned the right to start on the weekends. But I just feel like it's kind of just the way it played out. And who knows? Maybe they'll start all 4 this next weekend and Beidelshees will suck and we'll reverse course. That might be what we go through. But I just think to start the season, if we're reading the tea leaves, it does seem like they're setting it up for Beidelshees to be that number 3 guy. And I think it just makes sense. I mean, it's a guy that threw, I think, like 85 innings last year as a starting pitcher. He's got the experience. He's got the stuff. He's viewed in high regard as a draft prospect. All 4 of these guys are. I think it kind of just makes sense to have Gage Wood be that do everything bulldog mentality reliever at the end of games. And I think you guys are going to really enjoy seeing him in that role. I just know there's a lot of people around that Batesville, Arkansas area who really want to see Gage Wood start. And who knows, maybe that ends up being the way they go. But just as it stands today, it does seem like the writing is kind of on the wall for it to be Gackle, Root, Beidelshees. Perhaps I'm wrong about that, but that's just kind of the vibe I got. And the 8 runs given up by Gage Wood certainly played a role in that. But overall, I think from a pitching staff standpoint, all of the guys that you are expecting to have a big role for Arkansas have looked apart here lately, man. I mean, all 4 of those starters that I just mentioned, it was really good to see the 2 freshmen in Wiggins and Gibbler both go out there and throw really well today. Will McIntyre, of course, we know what he's capable of. Dylan Carter, I feel like, is definitely going to be in that mix as well. Parker Coyle didn't throw today, he threw yesterday. Just continue to feel awesome about the strides he's making, the development he's making. Colin Fisher, I thought his outing today was really encouraging. And so, again, you just kind of go on the line. I feel pretty good about what Arkansas's got going on. Pitching staff-wise, we've got some clarity with the lineup. We feel good about the balance of this overall roster. It's time to play some games, man. I'm getting fired up. I'm ready to watch this team kick someone else's ass. That's what I'm ready for. And so I appreciate everyone for tuning into this journey, man. And I look forward to going through it with you guys. And we will continue to bring the coverage. I will continue to have episodes each day as we lead up to the start of the season. We'll have some predictions for the record and all that. And again, as always, let me know if you guys have any questions as we lead into the season. I'm an open book. I want to talk about this. I want to answer any of your questions that you have. And we're going to continue to talk hog ball. That's what we do around here, man. So it's been another brilliant Saturday edition of the Baumbastic Podcast. Good luck to the Arkansas men's basketball team tonight. Hopefully they can get a big win. And I will see you guys very soon. Woo pig. See you at Baum.